So as we get further into this offseason, the wheels of the Dallas Cowboys organization continue to look like they're about to fall off because now Amari Cooper and the Dallas Cowboys look like they're heading towards a possible divorce. There are rumors circulating that Amari Cooper could be traded this offseason or possibly released if the Cowboys can't find a trade partner. And for me, that would spell doom for the organization because I don't see a path that they could replace him other than a young rookie. But we'll get into the possible avenues they can partake in. But before we get into that, if you guys could do me a solid favor and like this video, doesn't take too long to do and helps the channel out tremendously. Subscribe if you're new here. I am trying to hit 10,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel by the end of the year, so by doing so, that'd be greatly appreciated. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on new content. So Amari Cooper is currently slated to make a bunch of money this season. We're looking at $20 million on a cap hit. So the Cowboys could trade him, and they could get out of this salary cap situation with just his move. But for me, you know, I don't know if the move makes full sense unless the compensation seems correct. If the Dallas Cowboys can manage to get some form of a first-round pick or something similar, then we can have a conversation of what is out there. But when I look at what's on the table, as I'm taking a look at Tankathon and kind of looking at how other teams performed this season to get a sense of, okay, what teams could we see possible trade for in the first round? Well, one could be, you can always throw Kansas City on there. They want to continue to improve. Kansas City's still in the tournament, so they currently hold the 29th pick in the NFL draft, so that's one team to keep an eye out on. I look at some of these other teams like, I wouldn't say Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh, I think, has enough weapons to just stay there. Obviously, you're not going to trade him to division rivals. Do the Chargers come calling for Amari Cooper to get some more weapons? The Jets, but those would be late-round picks. Or what I mean by that is day 2 picks. So you have options on the table, but it's just a matter of what's available. Because I think for me, if you're looking for a first-round pick, you're probably looking at like between 25 and 32. So let's go. I think that Kansas City makes sense if you're looking for a first-round pick, but you could be looking at, like, I could see the Jets unloading their 35th and 38th overall picks to start the second round for Amari Cooper. That could be fine compensation, but again, the biggest problem is the plan to replace him. What are we going to do? You know, like, if the Cowboys are serious about I would say this. The Cowboys getting rid of Amari Cooper would signal to me they are going into a soft rebuild, and we should prepare ourselves for that. And soft rebuild is as simple as, in my definition, you still make playoffs, or you make the playoffs or try to make the playoffs. You might win a playoff game, but you're retooling the roster. A retool is like, okay, so you just need to make like 1 or 2 moves. This Cowboys team needs to make several moves to get back on track. And now my confidence in the front office is extremely thin and worn down at this point, as you guys are aware of. But for me, if you're the Cowboys and you get rid of Amari Cooper, would it be a terrible decision? Well, you look at it in the sense of, if you do it at face value, unless you properly replace his impact on the team, it doesn't make sense to do. It doesn't make sense to do because, then you have to look at getting more weapons. You have 4 guys on your wide receiver list that are slated to hit free agency in Gallup, Wilson, Brown, and Turner. So now you bring 2 of those guys back. Is Gallup one of them? I don't think Gallup will be one of them because the Cowboys will not pay him top-end money unless he takes a pay cut, which I doubt happens. And what I mean by that, I don't mean that he's selfish. I mean that he deserves his money, but I don't think the Cowboys are going to be willing to pay him. They're going to lowball him. So, but if I'm Dallas, you have to look at the possibility that you're going to need to get as much draft compensation as possible and try to build this team up, because they're not going to do anything in free agency. They're not going to grab someone in free agency. They'll get some bargain basement bullshit. So, with that, has Amari Cooper really justified a trade? Just to kind of go further into that. So, with Dallas, they gave him the first round pick to Oakland. That was pick 27, if I remember correctly. And so with pick 27, you got a guy in Amari Cooper who really changed the dynamic of how you were offensively. You made Dak Prescott able to be more efficient passer and elevate his game a lot more so. On top of that, it made you get in with him at the helm, or with him at wide receiver, I should say, 2 playoff berths, and the 8-8 seasons. So I mean, and offensively, you've done a lot better with him at your receiver. Now, to shout out the Star Gang podcast and BJ Nix, because he mentioned a point to where it reminded him of Scott Linehan and Dez Bryant. I think that both are similar and obviously different. I think with Dez was in a situation where he didn't justify the contract or what we were paying him because of his play on the field. Now, you could say the same thing about Amari Cooper, but for me, Amari Cooper's at a much different stage in his career. Amari Cooper has not yet to turn 30. I think he's going to be turning 28 or 27 next year. And when I look at that, it tells me, hey, if I'm the Cowboys, you have a young guy that still has shown he can be really, really good. And Amari Cooper has voiced frustrations with how the offense is, and that is a problem, ladies and gentlemen. It's a problem. Like, we can't be going into next season with Kellen Moore, because you're just going to get another wash of a season. But I do think he's going to be here, Kellen Moore. But as for Amari, do I think he stays? My gut feeling, no. I think that the Cowboys are not only done with him in terms of level of production, but with the vaccine status. Whether I don't care where you feel on that, because I'm not here to talk about that. But I think that's played a factor in that. And, when you look at some of these rumors circulating, it appears that the Cowboys front office is done with him. And so that's why I'm kind of nervous about where this team is going to be, because that would signal that this team will not be, the window will have closed for a little bit. I will say that. I think that, and I'm not trying to say that to be like, oh, you're just defending Cooper. No, because you have a guy in Amari Cooper that's making that money who can, be a really damn good player, but letting him go, I don't think is the correct move, depending on what you're doing as the Cowboys. And again, I'm all for what they want to do, but it comes down to what what you're trying to do as a team. Or if you're retooling a tad bit, you don't need to trade him. If you are rebuilding, like a soft rebuild or a hard rebuild, you're going to have to get rid of him. And I think that the only way that I'd be willing to do a hard rebuild is if you get rid of everybody, scorch it, and start all over again. But the Cowboys don't do that. The Cowboys don't do hard rebuild. They've only done a hard rebuild like once, and that was in the early 2000s when Bill Parcells came in here and kind of changed everything up. As for the Garrett era and more recent memories, it's been soft rebuild. The Cowboys, yes, and I think the Cowboys need to rebuild? Yeah, I'm starting to kind of believe that. I think that you need to look at fixing up this offensive line. You need to make sure to continue to build around Micah Parsons and continue to get that defense up and running. And then the question is going to be like, okay, so then at quarterback, what do you do there? And I think that, again, in soft rebuilds, you do not get rid of the quarterback, and only in a hard rebuild you do that. And I don't think that again, if you're on the route of we want to get rid of Dak Prescott, there is no viable alternative this year. I think that if you are seriously considering a quarterback, this isn't the year to do it. The next year and the year after that, we'll take a look at it, because, again, contract-wise, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, to kind of just build off of that, an Amari Cooper trade would signal that the Cowboys are entering a soft rebuild, and so we will see what, and we'll see what the Cowboys are going to do. And if you guys have any ideas of what you would do in this instance, put that down in the comment section below. And with that being said, I will catch you guys out in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye-bye.